And we take you to Toronto now, where the city's mayor is outlining a plan for road tolls on major highways in the city.
He's a mayor who's here without a team in the game, but notwithstanding that, we're very loyal to our respective teams. What I want to say to you that's much more important than that, the example he has set nationally in this country, and I think you've probably read about it, but if you haven't, you should, with respect to reconciliation with our Indigenous people. And the example that he has set as a shining example of actually living out in his public office and in his persona the value of inclusion that we believe in so strongly in this country is something you should read up on if you don't know about it. And I just want to say thank you for that example, Brian, and thank you for doing something that I think is timely and appropriate for us all. And I've tried to follow your lead in some of the things I did this summer, and so I just want to welcome you most warmly to Toronto. I don't know where he is in this room, and I see a number of our wonderful city staff team here, but I want to acknowledge as well the presence of the leader of that team, City Manager Peter Wallace, whose advice and counsel I rely on hugely. And I want to thank him for his leadership and all of the public servants who are present in this room. They have helped to prepare a lot of the reports that have led to some of the decisions we're going to be making at City Council, and I will be setting out some of my thoughts on those recommended courses of action today. But I want to say thank you to Peter and to the public service team who do a good job for us at the City of Toronto. Ladies and gentlemen, I am here because our city is growing, and this is a good thing. But growing with the city are the needs of our people who live and work in our city. For decades now, we have been under-investing as a city in almost everything, and those under-investments are having an impact on our residents and on our city. And I think if we think about it for just a moment, we all recognize that we see it and we feel it every day. It's hard to get around. Congestion and commute times are choking our roads and our productivity, as Jan mentioned. Our transit system isn't big enough for the current number of riders that it is expected to carry, leave alone the millions of additional residents we know are coming to a growing city over the next 20 years. Think about that. The system isn't big enough and broad enough to handle the people who are here now, let alone all that we know are coming. We are a great city. That's why it's going to grow going forward. People want to live and work here, but that means we have more pressure on our roads and on our transit and on the services we need. And just to sit back and say, well, that's just the way it is not okay. I came into office promising to be honest with the people of Toronto, to get this city moving, and in turn, that will help us to grow our economy and to make a greater effort to ensure that no one is left behind. Honesty starts with acknowledging this. If we are to achieve those goals, we have to acknowledge that the things we need, from transit to affordable housing, are not free. They are not free. Pretending otherwise is not responsible, and it is not fair to the people of Toronto. And so, I believe it is time for decisive action by the City Council, and it is up to me to show the leadership in that regard, and to show the leadership in doing it, I believe, in what is the right way. Now, I'm not the kind of guy, I think many of you will know by now, that is going to slash services or take away programs that people rely on, especially our most vulnerable citizens. And I'm not going to dramatically increase property taxes across the board. I'll explain why later, but I think as a matter of common sense, it is not the right way to go for the City of Toronto. And so our city does need to come together around a fair, effective plan to pay for new transit and to take care of our citizens. And I am hopeful that my City Council colleagues, as we discuss this and look at the choices available, will feel the same way. I can tell you, I am ready to lead. First things first, we need to demonstrate to the people of Toronto that we are going to spend their money wisely. I take seriously my obligation to hold our government to account, to make sure we are asking hard questions and demanding real accountability and transparency, and to bring about change, knowing that at City Hall, that is a responsibility shared by one mayor and 44 councillors. This week, I outlined my plan to modernize the way government services are delivered. Finally, putting a citizens first kind of approach in place through a digital-focused, efficient approach that will see City Hall run more like many of the businesses represented in this room. And that will produce savings in the millions of dollars each and every year going forward, notwithstanding dramatically improved levels of citizen satisfaction. I also indicated my intention to move forward with the next steps, for example, to contract out additional garbage collection east of Yonge Street, which will also save us millions of dollars each year. I want the people of Toronto to see their government working hard for them, providing services to them in an excellent manner and in ways that make the most sense and that are financially sensible as well. I want us to question why we have continued to do things the same way for decades, while at the same time, after asking those questions, then empowering our staff, our talented staff, to build a city government filled with passionate experts who have the tools and the technology that they need. But when it comes to our budget problems, modernization and efficiency are not going to be enough. The City of Toronto currently needs $33 billion to build specific projects over the next 20 years. And let me be clear, we need to build them. These are, by and large, not nice-to-have things. These are things that are essential building blocks to the city, that are largely public transit projects and projects that are going to cause the city to be able to cope with the growth and thrive in the face of the growth that is coming here. Now, with a number that big, $33 billion, it's easy to lose sight of what we're actually talking about. So I should give you some examples of how that money would be invested. First and foremost, Toronto needs to expand its transit network, taking it from the lines you see on the subway map today to a real network that includes the Relief Line, Smart Track, the Crosstown East to Scarborough, and the Waterfront LRT. And a lot of these things have been talked about and put on lists and have even been approved in many cases by the City Council, but haven't been proceeded with because there was no means available to pay for them. Traffic is a growing nightmare, and the number one fix is to give people more transit options so they can get out of their cars. If we're going to tame the traffic beast, especially in light of our expected growth, it means starting to collect funds today or shortly after today for crucially needed transit for tomorrow. We need to build more transit. I don't think there's anybody in this city who disagrees with that. And what goes with that is obviously the need to answer the question, how are we going to pay for it? Now, we also have to invest, as we well know, in repairing and improving the system we have. Over the next 2 years, the Government of Canada, and I welcome this and I thank them for it, and Brian, I think you probably got similar investments, maybe of a different size because Toronto's obviously a bigger city with a bigger transit system, but the federal government, the new federal government, have provided us with $840 million in funding for state of good repair work for the TTC. But we have to match it. A lot of people don't know that. Those are the rules. We have to come up with our $840 million to get their $840 million. This partnership will let us repair our subways, modernize our tracks and our signals, buy new buses, make our stations accessible to people with wheelchairs and strollers. This is a huge opportunity to improve reliability and accessibility. And the time to take advantage of this new, more productive relationship with the Government of Canada is now. The price is $840 million to match their money for those projects alone. And that is money that was not previously accounted for in whole to make sure that we could do that matching and get their money. Our list of unfunded projects that are part of the $33 billion also includes $250 million for the construction of new or improved long-term care homes across the city, places for our elderly citizens to live. Acknowledging the reality we know what the demographics are and how they're changing and how we must address that within the context of making sure we take care of our elderly citizens. It includes affordable housing, an economic issue as well as a social issue, because we need people to be able to both work and live in our city. We need to be able to live and work in our city. They have to be able to do both. And as I've said a number of times, a number of you have heard me say this, I have no intention of telling an entire generation of young people that they just can't afford to live in Toronto. We can't afford to not have them living and working here and have the options to do so. The list of the $33 billion also includes the $333 million contribution that we would have to make to flood-proof the Portlands. Now, you may say, well, why does that matter? Well, we can't proceed with the development and we can't proceed to attract the investment and have the jobs. The biggest economic development opportunity our city has in front of it, maybe the biggest in North America. We cannot proceed with that unless those lands are flood-proofed. So no floodproofing because of no money means no development, jobs, or investment, and that would be a massive lost opportunity for this generation and for future generations. And so these are big things to take on. These projects have big price tags. They are not free, but they will have a big positive impact on the future of our city. They will make our lives and our city better. The people of Toronto know that we need these things. City Council knows that we need these things. That's why, in many cases, they were already approved by the City Council, but without the money attached to get them done. In some cases, they were approved a long time ago. So the question remains, how do we pay for them? I'm going to start by telling you what I believe to be the wrong way to pay for these necessities. This morning, the city manager, Peter Wallace, released a report from his team outlining all of the options we have to pay for these much-needed investments. And he noted in that report, the staff noted, that property taxes are not the right tool to pay for huge capital projects. I agree. Property taxes are predictable, they're reliable, and they're fair, which makes them an effective way for cities to pay for the day-to-day services that we provide. But to use property taxes to fund a share of this $33 billion, we would need a massive increase in our property taxes year after year. Property taxes were never meant to finance multi-billion-dollar investments in transit and in housing, and using them to do so would punish our residents and would make home ownership even harder. So I will not support huge increases in property taxes to finance these big capital projects. I am also not going to support a return to a vehicle registration tax or support a parking levy. A parking levy would mean that we charge all property owners for every parking spot they offer, paid or free, whether they own a shopping mall or a daycare or a funeral home or a church or a strip mall or a factory. It would place an unfair burden on those commercial property owners while other kinds of commercial entities would not pay their share. And we would have to create a new system to count and to enforce and to administer this new levy. And many would say, well, that's okay, just go ahead and exempt the plazas and the churches and the industrial sector. But then you know what starts to happen. Once you start, where do you stop? And you end up in the worst of all worlds where you've taken some pain from implementing a levy like this, and you're not getting much gain in terms of the money that we absolutely need to build the transit and the other things that I've talked about today. I should also tell you that I will not support the much-discussed option of a sale or partial sale of Toronto Hydro. The city is the sole shareholder of Toronto Hydro, and that is an investment that I take seriously. We need to build a robust energy system in Toronto. We need to invest in our infrastructure, which includes our electricity grid, in order to support our city's growth and that of our industries. But I believe that we have identified a practical way in which the city can help Toronto Hydro to make those investments and to protect our dividend at the same time, without a sale. And that is the course that I intend to pursue, not to proceed with any sale, partial or otherwise, of Toronto Hydro. Now, you can see as I go through this list that there are no easy answers here. That's the truth of this. But I have looked, together with our officials and others, at all the options. And I do believe there is a way that we can build the things we need, starting with transit, so that we can meaningfully get at unacceptable levels of traffic congestion. And I want to tell you the criteria that I use to decide on my own position on this, which I will be taking forward to my colleagues at City Council and to the people of Toronto. First, I ask myself, is it fair? Does it give people a choice? And fairness includes looking at options that reduce the impact on Toronto residents by asking everyone who visits our city, who benefits from its services, to help shoulder a small part of the cost. People say that Toronto's population is 2.8 million. And that's true at night when people who live here are at home sleeping. But by day, the number of people in this city, and it's a good thing, but by day that number goes up dramatically with all the people who come to work or to visit, all the while using the services paid for by Toronto taxpayers. And that is not fair. My third criteria was that there should be a positive impact for our city, measures that would produce more than just money. And finally, I asked whether we could designate the money generated directly towards the things we need, so that people will know exactly how these new dollars will be spent and receive a transparent accounting each and every year. I believe that road tolls fits all of these criteria. A road toll on the DVP and the Gardiner Expressway of just $2 would raise the City of Toronto more than $200 million every year to build transit, to fix roads, and to relieve congestion. To achieve an equivalent amount from property taxpayers would involve an increase somewhere between 5 and 10%. Tolls are paid in cities around the world, places many of us have visited. On the Gardiner and the Don Valley Parkway, these tolls would be paid by those who drive in and out of our city, as well as by local 416 residents, sharing the burden among everyone who uses these City of Toronto-owned and financed roads. Tolls have been shown to reduce travel times and ease congestion, and they also encourage people to take transit. The introduction of tolls in Toronto would also happen just as our regional GO network and SmartTrack systems expand and our local transit options accelerate, so that people will have a much broader range of transit options. And the money raised through these tolls would be directly invested in the expansion of our transit network. Together with the 0.5% levy that I announced last year on property taxes, this money would be held in a separate infrastructure fund and not be a part of the city's overall operating budget, so people have no doubt as to how it is being invested. I will propose that this fund be overseen by an independent body and audited each year by the city's Auditor General. This is fair, this is transparent, and this will help us to build the things we need. Now, of course, implementing a new system for tolls will take some time, and we also have to address the gap that exists in our operating finances right now. This year, we asked all of our divisions and agencies, from the police to the library, to identify 2.6% in reductions to their operating budgets, to see if there were ways to do things differently, to set targets for our spending. I endured a lot of criticism for this, but I felt that it was just something we had to go through in order to cause people to spend the time and the energy, which they did, to look for different ways to do things, to look for efficiencies that could be achieved so that we could make sure to tell the taxpayers that we were working hard to find better ways to provide better services if we could for less money. I will tell you it has been a valuable exercise, as those of you who are in business and other kinds of enterprises know that these things can be. And it produced great insights, not to mention tens of millions of dollars in cost savings. But it also brought home to me just how much is at stake if we don't work together to get the city back on track. We cannot keep squeezing services for a growing population, a rapidly growing population, from our property tax base alone. And we cannot cut vital services that mean so much to people, especially those who are most in need. And that is why I will also be supporting straightforward, sensible tax reforms to fairly produce some additional operating revenues so as to ensure we can continue to provide the services to people who need them. I will be calling, for example, for an end to the city's vacant commercial and industrial property tax rebate, which subsidizes property owners for empty office space or boarded up stores across our city. When it was first created, this idea made some sense. It was a promise to help our businesses through some difficult times. But the truth of the matter is that our city has subsidized property owners to the tune of $367 million between 2001 and 2013. And almost 50% of those payments have gone to the owners of empty spaces in the downtown core, where property values are in fact skyrocketing. By eliminating this rebate, we can save up to $22 million each and every year, and we can improve the vibrancy of our neighborhoods from one end of the city to another. I also support making our city's voluntary destination marketing fee a mandatory hotel tax at all Toronto hotels. A hotel tax, used in most other major cities around the world, means that visitors to Toronto also contribute to protecting and enhancing the vibrancy and the quality of life that has drawn them here in the first place.